Hey guys, it is Carl Brown for GuitarLessons365.com. Got a classic for you today. We're going to learn how to play Simple Man by Lynyrd Skynyrd. So this is tuned down a half step. So we are in E flat tuning. It's the notes E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. I will put that in the description if you need help with that. So get in that tuning. That's the original tuning, and we're going to do it like they did the original. So we have this opening little arpeggiated sequence to which, I mean, the minute you hear it anywhere in the world, it instantly knows what song this is. So what's going on here is in the beginning when you first hear it, it's just one guitar part. And then there's another one added that has a slight little effect on it. And then for the most part, whenever you're hearing the verse, you're hearing both of those parts together throughout the song. So what I did at the beginning, I just played each one of them twice. So I'll just explain as we go here. So this first one, I kind of consider the main one. It just repeats. So we're going to start here with the open A string, then 2, and then you can just take it to a C major chord, and we're going to pick across a C major chord. So from there, we're going to pick the A string, then open G, the D string, and then back down to the A string. So we have this. Now generally when I'm picking parts like this, I'm always picking in the direction of the next string that I'm going to pick. So when I'm starting, I just go down, up, down. So it's all on one string. But from there, I'm just going down, up, down. So I'm just kind of always moving towards that next string. So we don't have to worry about each pick stroke. That's all I'm doing. So we had this. And then as you're still holding the chord, you're going to go to the B string and pick the B string, G, the D, and then back to the G. So we have this. All right, now all you have to do really is take these two fingers and move them up one string to the G chord and just lift up the index finger. All you really need are these two fingers. And then we have this, which is the same picking pattern, just done on different strings. So that's now the picking pattern is starting on the 6th string, the low E. So low E, D, A, E. And then to the G, D, it's the B, no, the A string. Then back to the open D. So it's the same pattern that you did here, just on lower strings. Then we're going to do that same pattern that we started with, but on an A minor chord. So just like that, back to the 4 middle strings, basically, the picking pattern. And then we're going to vary it a little bit. You're going to go. So we're still holding the A minor, but now you're going to make it an A minor 7th chord by playing this G note here on the high E string at the 3rd fret with your pinky. And then you're going to basically start it with the same pattern that we just played. Actually, it's from the A string there, then the B, G, D. And then high E string, B, and then you start over. So we have this. So all together. Now I'm just repeating. All right, so that's the first way of playing this. Then along with it, after you hear it a couple of times, you'll hear a second guitar come in with a kind of a univibe effect on it, which he takes that effect off when when the vocals come in, but they continue still playing these two parts together. So this part that comes in after a couple of times through and just goes along with what we just did, sounds like this. it just repeats. So it starts with that same 3 notes, and it's still based around a C chord. So from this C chord, you can now go the A to the G, back to the A, and the B. Now you hold that note twice as long as the others. You're letting them all ring, but you're not picking another note until that top note rings out twice as long. And then it's the open G, and then 3-2 on the A. So we have this. Then just take it to that same G chord that we did on the other part, and it's just, and that's just kind of starting the same way, just G, D, G. I'm sorry, it's a G note. It's a low E string, sorry. Low E string, D, low E string, G, D, A, D. So we have this. And once again, when we get to that top note, there's a slight little pause there. So we have this so far. Then, once again, we're going to take it to an A minor. So we're going to do, just from the A minor, we're going to go the A string to the G string a couple times. So, and then D, and then the A. Now once again, you're going to hold that note, like. And then you're going to continue this little, but now you're just going to do it starting on the B string. So it's going to B, G, D. And you're also going to add now that G note on the high E string and do the pattern there. Just the first 2 notes of it though. That 3 and then the 1 on the B, and then you're going to start over. So that last pattern from the A minor, so we have this. And just repeat. All right, so then when the vocals come on, he kind of removes that effect, and they play those 2 parts together throughout every verse. All right, so we have those verses, and then when you get to the end of the verse, there's this little riff that comes in. We'll just call it the verse riff. And while this riff is being played, you're going to play the first version of the riff that we learned underneath it, and then a guitar with a more aggressive distorted tone plays this. All right, so it's pretty simple. Just that 0, 2, 3 on the A string. There's a lot of vibrato on the notes there. So then you're gonna play the 5th fret and slide up to 7 and back down to 5. Back down to 3. Over to 3 on the low E string. Then you're going to do that little slide from 5 to 7, back to 5 again. Down to 3 on the A, and this time resolve it to the 5th fret on the low E. So we have this. And then we're going to end it, which is just 0, 3, 0, and then slide 3 to 5 on the low E. And then just repeat the same thing. So that takes us back to the chorus, to the verse, which is the same 2 clean arpeggio parts going on. But at the very end of that, when it goes leading into the first chorus, you're going to see this little ending. So that's just the open E, the 3rd fret power chord off the low E. That's palm muted, so 3rd fret on the low E, 5th on the A. Back to the low E, and and then the A power chord. So it's just the open A string and the D and the G held at the second fret. All right, that kind of just happens at the very end of that second verse, which leads us into the chorus. Chorus, pretty simple, and once again we have two guitar parts towards the end that are playing, but it sounds like this. All right, so we're going to start with a C major chord. So this is the C major where you're playing off the third fret of the A string and barring the fifth fret of the D, G, and the B. You might want to play that with your third finger. I like to play it with my pinky a lot. But we're also adding the third fret on the low E string too. So we're just doing a C major with the fifth and the bass. Second version. All right, so however you want to play it. Then you're just going to pick the C major, starting from the fifth string. Then you pick a low E string by itself on that G note. And then it takes us to a G major chord. Now you don't have to do the full bar. It's the bar shape, but you don't have to play the B and the high E string. It's just the third fret on the low E, fifth on the A and D, and fourth on the G. So we have this. Then you pick that G again, then the open E string, low E string, over to that A power chord. So far. So don't miss that little transition between the C and then from G to A. And then that same move we did earlier. And then it just repeats that. And a little bit later, as you hear it, you'll hear a lot lower in the mix. You'll hear a guitar come in like this. So it's just that the C, same C chord, but without the G in the bass. You move it up the 10th fret. The A. Just the same thing. It's just a kind of a little guitar layer they do to kind of thicken it up at the very end. All right, so that is pretty much it for the chorus sections and stuff. Now we're getting to the solo sections, all we have left, because anytime you hear the verse and the chorus, it's played exactly like that. So we're going to now check out the solo section real quick, and we're going to start with the rhythm guitar parts that are going on underneath it, which is also a couple of our rhythm guitar parts going on. So let me play the first one for you real quick. All right, so that's the low portion of it. So if you just have one guitarist, rhythm guitarist, which most bands do, while the solo's going on, you're just going to want to play that one. The other one is just pretty much the same thing, just an octave higher. So let's take it up. It's going to start building from here. So that 5th fret power chord on the low E, then go up 7, 8. Now this one you're probably going to want to use your pinky on the top note. Because when you get here to the 8th fret, so it plays the normal power chord, then it moves to the 10th fret on the low E, while still keeping the 10th fret on the A, and then back down to the normal power chord. And then we do the same thing here at the 3rd fret. And then you just go. So it's just sliding up the power chord from 3 to 5, hit it a few times, and then do it again. And then at the very end, there's a little just sliding up 5 to 8, 8, back down to 5. So I'll play through that one time really slow. And then you just repeat that over and over underneath the solo. Now underneath that, you're going to hear So it's the exact same thing we did here. Just move over to the 4th string at the 7th fret. So this is the exact same thing otherwise. All right, so pretty simple stuff. If you've got that other one down, you can play that one. But like I said, most people don't have 3 guitars. So you're going to want to play the lower one to make it sound bigger underneath the solo. All right, and now all we have left is the actual solo itself. So let me play through that, and then we'll take a look at it phrase by phrase. All right, so let's take a look at this. All Lynyrd Skynyrd solos are just great. These just such singable lines, and they're just all instant classics. So we're going to start here with this 5/7 on the G, and then you're going to do an oblique bend, which is going to require you to keep holding that 7 and bend it up a whole step while holding the 8th fret there on the B. So you're going to hit both strings together. Train effect, and then so as you play that, you pick it again and do a bend and release. Pull off to the 5th fret there on the G, and then back to those 2 7 and 8s with no bends. So this. Now you're going to do it again, another oblique bend and release. Pull off to 5. Resolve it to 7th on the D string. Now this next little phrase has a little overdub in there as well. So I'm just going to do the top line. So that's just kind of sliding up the D string and then playing 12, 14 on the G, 13 on the B, back to 14 on the G. Like I said, you're going to hear some other notes in there, but that is just an overdub. So, all right, the next phrase. All right, so we're going to slide into the 19th on the G. 17th, then play 19. And once again, you can do an oblique bend here, basically an octave up from where we were before. So it's 19 here on the G, 20 on the B, held together. Then pick the B string, and then the G, and release that bend. Pull off to 17, and pick those 2 notes again without a bend. So this. And then we have a bend and release at the 19th fret, pull off to 17, over to 19 on the D, and to a full bend at the 20th fret on the B string. And then it goes into this. All right, so that's kind of a tricky lick. What he's doing, he plays 17 on the B to 17 on the high E string, then play 20, then 20 I have a half step bend, then 20 was a full step bend, and then a 2-whole step bend. It's a pain to play. Just cheat it, who cares? So after you get to that, you roll back over to with. By the way, that last 20, it's kind of like a little quarter step bend. He brings it from that big 2-whole step bend. He brings it back down to kind of a quarter step. And then rolls back across the 17th this time from the high E to the B. Into the bend at the 20th fret on the B string. And then we have another bend and release there. All right, so it kind of ends this phrase. Bend the 20 up, release, pull off the 17, and back to that 20. And now we have this little series, which is a little bit tricky to play too. And it looks like this. All right, so it moves around quite a bit. So we're sliding into the 17th fret, rolling over to 17 on the high E string. So it's 17 on the B to 17 on the high E, and to the 20th fret bend on the B string. Now we're going to do the same lick, except the first note you're going to slide into is the 18th fret on the G string, then back to the 17 on the high E string, and back to that 20th fret bend on the B. Then we start back sliding into the 17 on the B, over to the 17 on the high E string, and then that bend at the 20th fret. So we did this, the 17s, then the 18 on the G, then the 17s, and then real quick from this 20th fret bend, you're going to bend at the 19th fret on the G string, and then roll 17 from the high E to the B, and then the bend again at the 20th. So that whole lick, it's kind of confusing, but I'll play it slow. All right, then we're going to have this. So lots of bends. We're going to go open G, 5, 7 on the G, and then do a pre-bend here, whole set pre-bend, and release. Then bring it back up. Then as that's being bent, you're going to play the 8th fret on the B string. Then pick that note that's already bent on the G. Release, pull off to 5, and then a bend and release at the 7 again. All right, and then we're going to do this, which is a bend at the 7th on the G, 5 on the high E, then you play 8 on the B, then do a pre-bend. So it sounds like that note. All right, then he has a little sliding up the fretboard lick. All right, so that's sliding from kind of into the 7th fret on the D string, play 5 on the G, and then you slide 7 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 14, then play 13, 15 on the B, and then a whole set bend at the 15. And the last part of the solo. Now part of that there had a little harmony part there too, where I'm playing the top line, that's it. So we, because I'm not assuming you're gonna have 4 guitars or 5 guitars now to do with all these rhythm guitar parts and multiple lead lines going on. So let's just get to the good stuff. So we're gonna, so that's just, after you did that, slide up, you're gonna play the 12, hold it, and then play 15 real quick on the high E, bend and release at the 15 on the B. And then back to the 15 on the high E, Then a bend and release again at the 15 on the B, pull off the 13, and a bend at the 15th fret on the high E string. And a final lick, a double stop here, 2 notes at the 5th fret on the B and the high E. Just with your index finger playing both notes. Bend and release at the 7th fret on the G. Pull off the 5. And over to 7 on the D. All right, so it's a cool solo. It's got lots of cool, challenging bends in it, but hopefully you guys can get it down if you just practice it phrase by phrase like I just taught it. But that's about it. All the other sections of the song just kind of repeat like we did them earlier, and there's nothing new there. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning it, and I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com, and please don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell so you'll be notified whenever I release a new lesson. All right, I'll see you then.